I once had a boss who was absolutely obsessed with tracking our time to a pathological degree. I'm not talking about just logging hours. I mean, she monitored our bathroom breaks with a stopwatch. If you were in the restroom for more than 4 minutes, she would come bang on the door and shout, "Is everything okay in there? We have clients waiting." One time, I had a stomach bug and was in there for maybe 10 minutes. She docked me 15 minutes of pay and held a team meeting about time theft and digestive efficiency. I quit 2 weeks later when she tried to make us clock out to get a glass of water. I worked for a small marketing firm where the owner truly believed we were his personal servants. One day, he called me into his office looking very serious. I thought I was in trouble or getting a new big project. Instead, he handed me a terrifyingly specific grocery list, including organic kale, a specific brand of expensive quinoa, and laxatives. He told me to go shop for his wife's dietary cleanse using my own money and that he would reimburse me on the next paycheck. When payday came, the extra $150 wasn't there. When I asked him, he laughed and said, "Consider that a contribution to the company culture." My grandmother passed away, and I was obviously devastated. I went into my boss's office to request 3 days off for the funeral and travel, which is standard per our company policy. He looked at his calendar, sighed deeply, and asked, "Did she die on purpose during our busy season?" I stared at him, unable to process what he just said. He then tried to negotiate with me. He said, "I'll let you have the morning off for the funeral, but I need you back online by 2 p.m. We really can't afford you checking out emotionally right now." I walked out and never went back. I had a boss at a retail store who was convinced that if we were sitting, we were stealing from him. It was a jewelry store and there were no chairs behind the counter. After an 8-hour shift, standing in heels, my feet were bleeding. I brought a small stool to lean on the next day because I had developed plantar fasciitis. He saw the stool, grabbed it, and threw it in the dumpster out back. He yelled in front of customers, "If you have time to lean, you have time to clean. Pain is weakness leaving the body. Get back to work." I eventually sued for workers' comp due to the foot injury. I was scheduled to have major jaw surgery that had been planned for 6 months. I let my boss know well in advance and everything was approved. 2 days before the surgery, my boss called me into a conference room. She said, "I'm going to need you to reschedule your surgery. Kevin is going on vacation to Hawaii next week, and we can't have 2 people out at once." I explained that I couldn't reschedule surgery I'd waited months for, and that Kevin's vacation was booked after my surgery was approved. She shrugged and said, "Well, Kevin already paid for his flight. You just have a doctor's appointment. Figure it out." My boss created a fake email account posing as a disgruntled client. He would send me incredibly rude, aggressive emails at all hours of the night just to test my conflict resolution skills and dedication to customer service. I spent 3 days stressing out, losing sleep, and drafting careful apologies to this client. When he finally revealed it was him during a staff meeting, he laughed hysterically and mocked my polite responses, calling me a pushover. He thought it was a brilliant training exercise. I thought it was psychological warfare. I worked as a graphic designer, and my boss had absolutely zero concept of boundaries. She followed me on every social media platform. One Saturday night, I posted a picture of myself having a beer with friends. Sunday morning, I woke up to 5 angry voicemails. She was screaming that if I was well enough to party, I should have been working on the project due Tuesday. She demanded I come into the office on Sunday to make up for my lack of focus. I wasn't even behind on my work. She just hated that I had a life outside the office. There was a massive blizzard in our area, and the governor declared a state of emergency. The roads were officially closed to non-emergency vehicles. I texted my boss saying I couldn't make it in because, it was illegal and dangerous. He replied with a photo of his own 4 Humber 4 truck in the parking lot and said, I made it in. Dedication is a choice. If you aren't here by 9:00 a.m., don't bother coming in tomorrow. I drove a Honda Civic. I risked my life sliding on ice just to sit in an empty office with him, because no clients came in anyway. I worked at a startup where the CEO promised us all huge bonuses if we hit a certain revenue target. We worked 60-hour weeks for 6 months, missing birthdays and holidays, fueled by this promise. We finally hit the target, blowing past it by 10%. The next day, the CEO pulled up in a brand new Maserati. He called a meeting and announced that due to unforeseen operational costs, his car and a new office renovation, there would be no bonuses this year. But he gave us each a $25 Starbucks gift card as a token of gratitude. I had a boss who would verbally approve my vacation time, but he refused to use the digital system because he didn't like technology. I would remind him via email, and he would reply, "Sure, fine." The day before I was set to fly to Europe for 2 weeks, he asked where I was going with my tasks. I reminded him I was leaving tomorrow. He looked shocked and said, "I never approved that, we are too busy. If you leave, consider it your resignation." I forwarded him his own emails confirming it. He claimed I must have edited the emails because he would never agree to that. I worked as a server, and the owner would routinely take 20% of the waitstaff's tips to cover breakage and credit card processing fees. We knew credit card fees were like 3%, not 20%. When we confronted him, he threatened to call immigration on the kitchen staff, who were all legal, but he tried to use fear to silence everyone. One night, a customer left me a $100 bill directly in my hand because she knew the owner was shady. He saw it on the security camera, demanded I hand it over, and fired me when I refused. My boss was going through a messy divorce and decided to make it everyone else's problem. She would call me into her office for strategy meetings that turned into 3-hour venting sessions about her ex-husband. If I tried to leave to get back to my actual work, she would accuse me of not being a team player and not supporting women in leadership. Then, at the end of the week, she wrote me up for missed deadlines. Deadlines I missed because I was forced to be her unlicensed therapist for 15 hours that week. I once had a manager who was threatened by anyone who showed competence. I created a new filing system that saved the department about 10 hours of work per week. Everyone loved it. In my performance review, she gave me a low score for insubordination because I changed a process without her direct, step-by-step written permission, even though she had verbally told me to fix the filing mess. She then took credit for the system in the company newsletter the following month. I worked in a warehouse that had no air conditioning, and it was the middle of July. It was 105 degrees inside. People were getting dizzy. The manager sat in an air-conditioned glass office overlooking the floor. When we asked for big industrial fans, he said they were too loud and would disturb his phone calls. He then implemented a strict dress code forbidding shorts for safety reasons. After someone actually fainted and an ambulance came, he finally bought 2 small desk fans for a warehouse of 30 people. My boss mandated that we all add him on a location tracking app for safety during business trips. The problem was, he checked it when we weren't on business trips. On a Saturday, he texted me, "I see you're at the mall. Since you're near the office supply store, go pick up 3 boxes of printer paper and bring them to the office. I have a presentation Monday." When I said no, I was off the clock. He harassed me all weekend about being ungrateful for my job. I was an admin assistant, and my boss refused to learn how to convert a Word doc to a PDF. Every single time he needed it done, he would call me, even if it was 10 p.m. One night, I didn't answer because I was asleep. The next morning, he dragged me into a meeting with HR, claiming I was unreliable during crunches. When I explained he just needed to click Save as PDF, HR sided with him, saying I needed to be more available to support executive needs. I worked for a guy who refused to give anyone a raise, ever. His logic was that if we wanted more money, we should work more hours. When I found a new job that paid 40% more, I put in my 2 weeks' notice. He threw a tantrum, screaming that I was betraying him after everything he did for me. He then told the entire office that I was fired for theft, which was a total lie, just to ruin my reputation before I left. I had to get a lawyer to write a cease and desist letter. My boss told me that I wasn't allowed to speak to my co-workers about wages. He actually put up a sign in the break room saying, "Salary discussions are grounds for immediate termination." I knew this was illegal under federal labour laws. I printed out the law and taped it right next to his sign anonymously. He went on a witch hunt, interrogating everyone individually to find out who did it. He screamed, "I run this place, not the government." I had a severe allergic reaction at work, peanuts in a nut-free labelled cookie, and had to use my EpiPen. As the ambulance was loading me up, my manager ran out. I thought she was checking on me. She actually ran out to ask me for the password to the company Instagram account because we need to post the daily special before noon. She was annoyed that the paramedics wouldn't let her hop in the back to get the password while my throat was closing up. My boss instituted a clean desk policy that was insane. We weren't allowed to have anything personal. No photos of family, no plants, not even a water bottle could be left on the desk if we weren't actively drinking from it. One day, he swept everything off my desk into the trash because I left a singular post-it note on my monitor when I went to lunch. He said, "Cluttered desk, cluttered mind." I spent the afternoon digging through the trash to find my car keys, which he had swept away. I worked at a salon where the owner was incredibly jealous of her staff. If a client requested me specifically because they liked my work, the owner would lie and say I was fully booked or out sick, then force the client to book with her. She would then scream at me in the back room for not having enough clients and threatening to cut my hours because my chair was empty. I eventually found out when a regular client ran into me at the grocery store and asked why I was always sick. I had a boss who would invite us out for team drinks on Fridays. It seemed nice until the bill came. He would always forget his wallet or claim his corporate card was maxed out, forcing us, the employees making near minimum wage, to cover his expensive scotch and steaks. He promised to pay us back via expense reports, but he was the one who approved the reports. He would always reject them saying, "Alcohol isn't a reimbursable business expense," even though he drank it. My boss forced the entire office to attend her daughter's Girl Scout cookie sale in the conference room. She literally blocked the door and said nobody leaves until everyone buys at least 5 boxes. I didn't have cash on me, so she made me Venmo her right then and there. She kept a spreadsheet of who bought what, and implied that buying less than the recommended amount would reflect poorly on our commitment to family values during review season. I was in a car accident on my way to work. My car was totaled, airbags deployed, the works. I called my boss from the scene, shaking, waiting for the police. Her first question wasn't, "Are you okay?" It was, "So does this mean you're going to be late? Because Linda called out too, and I really don't want to work the front desk myself." When I said I was going to the hospital, she huffed and hung up on me. I worked for a guy who believed that maternity leave was a vacation. When my co-worker came back after having her baby, he kept making snide comments like, "Must be nice to have 3 months off to just sit around." He then piled 3 months' worth of backlog on her desk and told her she had to finish it all by the end of the week to catch up to the team. He effectively punished her for having a child. My boss had a camera installed directly behind my monitor, pointing at my screen and my face. He claimed it was for security. I later found out he had a live feed of it open on his second monitor all day. He would message me instantly if I stopped typing for more than 30 seconds. "Why did you stop?" What are you thinking about? Type. It was suffocating.